Alrighty, here we go, boys. Match 2 of today's games. We have Russians again with same player playing Elephants, Capitella on the Solo Cavalry, Phobos CIS with the Germanicus Infantry, Puserix with the Arminius Cavalry, Nemte with the Leo Pikes, Mr. Druid again with the Slingers as predicted, and Dark Pituk with the Caesar Javelins. Who's ready for game number 2? This is going to be an interesting match. Now this is the chances of defense here is the French team has to use these chokes to their advantage, but if they use those chokes again, the enemy team has the advantage of their slingers having better range and chance of firing capability from outside the base. If the French hole up in their base, then the Russian team will be able to easily spot the enemy range, and it's just easy capabilities for their slingers to apply as much pressure as possible. It's going to be an interesting match. Or if we have a field battle, it looks like the Russians are going heavily on the right side, and they'll have Capitella for the spotting, making sure that there's nothing over here, just to easily figure out if they have to rush towards their base or not. Alright, we got Capitella. He's going for that flag. He's got to get that flag in vision, find out what's going on with the team. We have Russian Elephants. He's got one set towards the base, two heading over here, maybe as a quick response. We've got Mr. Druid and Dark Pituk, a strong force pushing on this left tower. They're going to take control of that tower as soon as possible, maybe find out if there is enemies or not. Capitella's got the flag, nothing on the right side, so if he's smart, he'll keep that one unit there just momentarily, find out if anything pops up, and he'll make his way to get to the team. And basically, we got some pings going on, so the team's probably getting ready to put these Leo Pikes in the chokeholds, make sure that there's nothing getting inside their base. Mr. Druid pushing in on their base from this side, so I'm guessing the French team has got to be over here on this flank. They have to be over here, and there they go, putting Surfier with the Leo Pikes to cut off their base as well. So again, here's the advantage. If the Russians keep all of this vision and range, Mr. Druid has all the chances to do as much damage as possible, while the French sit in their base and are basically sitting ducks. And there's a nice little volley from Mr. Druid, a little bit of damage on Sorfier, making him pop his Fight in the Shade so that he can reduce all damage from range to nil. Lord Commandant over here, I'm not too sure if he's got protection. I'm not sure if the Russians saw that, but there's some easy targets. They're smart. They're keeping their slingers outside the base. They need to do that in order to basically counter the Russian team's slingers. And if you'll take a look over here, the Russians making sure they have a good defense ready in case the French decide to push. And it looks like we've got a pushing force going with the French. They're going to go down the tunnel. They're going to go down. They're going to be safe from the slinger fire. So the French team is actually on the offensive this time. Meanwhile, the LEs are going to go out here, probably put pressure on those slingers. And meanwhile, there's a very limited force over here. If the French are smart, they can use their Caesar, deactivate these Pikes capabilities, and then maybe push straight into their base. And there you go. There's a nice javelin fire from Fogres. Very, very nice. Very nice. And then Sorfier's got his Pikes down. He's got Nemte in combat. He's got him in combat. He cannot lay down his Pikes. That's going to be one Pike out of the game. And Capitella is taking massive damage over here. Meanwhile, the Russians are trying to push through, and they're not quite pushing through yet, except actually they're using their Caesar to negate Sorfier's Pikes. So Sigurd's going to try and reduce this as much as possible. Meanwhile, Mr. Druid's got easy access to Lord Commandant with the slingers. This is over for the slinger battle. Mr. Druid, excellent play, getting into position. He's basically negated Lord Commandant's firepower. It looks to me like the French team is kind of being hesitant. They were doing so well on this aggressive push, but they're falling back to their base. If they were smarter, I would have definitely kept pushing on this winning battle and just have your teammates try and hold out over here while you could get a quick cap. The Lord Commandant pretty much out of the game now. They still have 5 javelins on the French team that can do massive amounts of damage, and they're using this hillside as good protection to limit Mr. Druid's killing potential, but he's still getting some good shots off. They're going to have to put pressure on those slingers, or else this could be another game over. But with caution, they have Puserix and Capitella, as well as an Elephant out here, so they're going to be applying pressure right back to those javelins, without a doubt. They've got to be very careful with this. And Mr. Druid, of course, laying down that suppression fire, making these jabs just dodge and not useful in any way right now. Looks like this fight has gone in the French favor. They have won this offense, and now we're going to see another offense from the Russians coming in as a counterattack down the chokehold. Now that this javelins are away and not able to counter Dark Pituk, he can take one javelin, negate Sorfier, and then just easily start pushing in as another offense. Meanwhile, over here we have the engagement has begun. The elephants are already applying pressure. Mr. Druid shooting the javelins. Puserix and Capitella trying to find an opening, and then Puserix gonna get in there and keep those javelins busy so they cannot do anything to this elephant. This engagement is not going in the favor of the French. Capitella coming around, he'll probably give them prescription so they do less damage. Excellent plays. Mr. Druid again laying down suppression fire down in the middle, and Sorfier is being pushed back. He's done. That pike is gone. Sigurd trying to take that javelin out of the commission. He needs to take this javelin out, and then now these pikes need to go. Fogris needs to take out these pikes. A very even battle, and it's amazingly even this time from both teams. However, this is just the problem right here. Mr. Druid has the upper hand in being in this position right here. This is where some pressure needed to be applied from the French, with Mr. Druid just easily laying down fire all over, uncontested. Having that uncontested ground is just slowly whittling down the French. And meanwhile, this little engagement, Puserix was able to get out. Dark Pituk still has some javelins. They've completely eliminated Freezy at this point. So now Freezy is pretty much out of the battle, and Kubiak is going to try and start pressuring Mr. Druid. Espada moving over here in the choke as a backup to Sorfier, and the French team moving their javelins forward. Not a smart move in my opinion, because those slingers, if they can't apply pressure on the slingers, then the javelins are just easy pickings. They need to apply a counter pressure on this choke in order to turn the tides in any way, while they can't press any other advantages on the Russian side. This is the advantage that the French need to take advantage of, and they're just not taking advantage of that choke and lesser units. And Kubiak taking some damage. He's still trying to get those jabs, but with the slingers, he's just not gonna do it. He's not gonna make it. Meanwhile, these jabs again, like right now, this is the French team is not taking advantage where they can, not utilizing their range. If you're not utilizing your range, then you're basically not able to. If you're not utilizing your range, there's no damage being output, and right here is where there could be damage being output. Use your range, take out these pikes, get rid of the pike problem. You had a little bit of pike protection, however now you don't, in which case it would have scared the elephant away at least. So now the javelins actually getting into the mix. They're going to try and cut off Mr. Druid. If they get close enough, Mr. Druid could see some massive damage. French team putting that pressure, as they should have been a long time ago, on Mr. Druid, but he's just drawing them away. He's got more movement speed. He's playing multi-80s. He's got the break ranks, so they're not going to catch him with this kind of comp, in which case he can just slowly kite them away. As he kites the team away, the Russians will begin their advance down the choke again with their elephant and small pike force and another elephant, which case they can quickly mop up this infantry force. And Puserix in here with the charge on Fogris for the javelins, taking some nice damage. Mr. Puserix taking minimal losses for his trade. Excellent attack right there. Puserix coming around for another move. He's got easy chances to try and snipe those jabs again. Very limited infantry if he comes at the right angle. Mr. Druid again drawing them out more and more. So this is a little bit of a different tactic. We had to push back, rush, push, back up, push. If you notice, the Russians, they're pushing when they need to push, and then when they're retreating when they need to retreat. This is a tactic often lots of new players, they don't understand that you don't need to fight a losing fight. You can retreat, regroup, and then use your numbers to your advantage. Now that all these units are isolated, the Russians, if you'll notice, the elephants are coming, everything's coming towards this isolated force. Russians have, like I said, they retreated. Now they're pushing forward on an isolated force. They're going to take advantage, divide and conquer, and then this, as we keep going, this battle is just more and more heading into the Russians' favor. I don't think the French are going to be able to come out on top of this. Here we go with the elephants taking on all of their infantry very easily. I imagine we missed that he had baited their vengeance. Well done on the Ellies. He just gets to easily mop up all these infantry. It's pretty much game for the Russians. Game 2, 2-0 for the Russians. So we're going to paint a little picture here. When Mr. Druid, he made an excellent choice of the slingers. Being on top of the hill, you had free reign to shoot anywhere on the base. Lord Commandant making the mistake of not having enough defense to keep pressure off of him and going back inside the base and trying to duel with Mr. Druid. You don't want to be caught in the middle when there's ranged firepower that have the high ground like that. And those javelins, again, like we talked about last match, you need to meet pressure with pressure. If you are going to have a team that's going to apply a lot of pressure, the French team was making excellent moves down the choke here, seeing a weak point and applying pressure right back at the Russians. And if they would have continued that pressure, they could have kept the favor in their favor and even maybe capped the Russian team.